In March of 1987, Canon did something that shocked the photography world. They killed their entire FD lens mount, a system that professionals had built their careers around, and replaced it with something completely new, the EF mount. It was an all-electronic system with no mechanical linkages at all. At the time, many photographers called it a betrayal. Canon insisted that it was the future. In that first generation of EF lenses, Canon released a handful of designs so that if you went down to your friendly neighborhood camera store and picked up an EOS 620, you'd have some lens options to go with it. And among this very early class of lenses was something really unusual, a 50 to 200 millimeter zoom lens that carried the red ring, Canon's L designation. It was called the EF 50 to 200 millimeter f3.5 to 45L, and it cost about $700 at the time. Canon would go on to produce many successful EF and EFS lenses over the next 3 decades and sell more than 150 million of them. This lens design was not one of them. Optically, this lens offered remarkable performance, along with a unique look that is very much all its own. But its handling, even in 1988, was the stuff of yesteryear, and its autofocus speed was slow compared to the new lenses that Canon was beginning to introduce. In my opinion, it was just an artifact and a casualty of Canon's transition era, and like my mother, the queen of all eras, might say, "I forgot that you existed." It was discontinued quietly after just a few years. Canon's own museum website only has a single page for it, a photo and a spec table, and that's it. So they acknowledge its existence. It's compact and lightweight, just like me, with a 4x zoom ratio covering the standard to telephoto focal lengths. The full range macro mechanism allows focusing as close as 4 feet, with a magnification power of 0.23x. So quarter life size magnification in this compact walk around zoom lens. Sadly, I no longer own this lens, and I certainly wish I would have used it more when I owned it. But thankfully, I used it on several photo sessions back when I had my Canon 5D Mark II, and I captured a range of nature, macro, and portrait photography with it. And so with that, this is the very first episode of Lost Glass. On paper, this is one of the most versatile lenses Canon has ever made. Why didn't it succeed? The handling of this lens is a time machine, and from my perspective, not in a good way. It's a push-pull zoom. You slide the barrel instead of twisting it, and while it's solid, you really just can't help but be aware of just how plasticky it feels as well. And again, not in a good way. It could suck in air, dust, smoke, steam, vapor, and suffered from zoom creep as well. Manual focus was rough, and autofocus was genuinely some of the slowest of any Canon EF lens that I've ever used. Slow and loud. And again, unfortunately, not in a good way, like a great opera. That said, I rarely found myself missing focus with this lens in use, although there were definitely times that I missed entire shots, scenes, maybe even an entire afternoon waiting for it to rack all the way through its range of focus. But I didn't pick up this lens for its handling. I really liked the idea of a lens that could go from 50 to 200, meaning that for certain shoots I could conceivably only bring a single lens. My first outing with this lens occurred immediately as I unboxed it at work and took it for a walk around the neighborhood on my lunch hour, shooting plant life, flowers, leaves, trees, interesting textures in walls and fences. Sadly, for a YouTube photographer like myself, there were no abandoned buildings in the vicinity that day. What struck me most about this lens, aside from its incredible versatile range, was the color depth, saturation, and tonality. There is a clarity to how this lens renders color that I did not expect from a compact zoom from the 1980s. The second time I had it out, I put the lens to work on a portrait session. I conducted a shoot from a friend of mine who needed some press images to support her new album release, and since we were going to be walking around to a number of locations outside, I decided that I wanted to go very simple and just use a single lens. I wouldn't have been able to do that with a 70 to 200. I used the full range from 50 to 200, and most of these images were shot between f5.6 and f8. Even at 5.6 and smaller, the lens did a phenomenal job with subject-background separation because the lens has such great sharpness, contrast, and I think, three-dimensional quality. Even at small apertures, it can get nice separation, even though the bokeh might not be, enormous, but its fall off and smoothness gives it separation, even though it's not due to just, straight magnification. And the bokeh this lens produces throughout the aperture range is truly beautiful. Specular highlights are really soft edge, and you almost see no outlining at all. Busy backgrounds don't turn into a distracting mess. It's very, very smooth. There's a real painterly quality that is very, very organic. It's not as good as more modern lenses at handling flare. And the handling as well just leaves so much to be desired. But despite all of that, I have to say that it without a doubt delivers a look that is all of its own. It holds its own against the 80 to 200 millimeter 2.8 magic drain pipe. Like I said, it looks very much like the kind of rendering you see with the 300 2.8. I mean, those are very, very good lenses and well-regarded lenses. And I think its rendering sits right there with them, but also offers something. It's sharp, but it's not totally perfect. And again, it's just very unique, and it can do things. It can just do a lot of things. It's sort of worth keeping around as like a Swiss Army lens. The challenge is that the handling really is so bad that, at least for me, I found myself not wanting to pick it up. Some images do suffer a little bit from chromatic aberration in high contrast scenes, which I also found to be a little bit dependent on the focal length that you're at. So I don't think that it's universal across the range. Interestingly enough, in addition to having outstanding color, this lens's characteristics also make it perform exceedingly well in black and white photography. The lens's contrast is exceptional, and the lens's tonality, I think, is similarly strong for the same reason that its color rendition and saturation is so good. Even black and white digital photography has a really filmic feel with this, and that's a good thing. Now, the only other serious review of this lens on YouTube is by Christopher Frost, who does amazing technical work, and truly my hat is off to him because he has created a remarkable archive of all lens reviews that will serve us all for a very long time to come. And when he got to close-up performance, his findings were pretty harsh. In my experience, I found the lens's close-up performance to be fantastic, and I think it's one of the reasons to own the lens. I find that when lenses like this have a unique macro range, it can really encourage creative approaches to your subject. And this image of what I call a nuclear cherry, I would never be shooting at this vantage, this angle, if I weren't using a lens that had this kind of working range and ability to close focus. It allows for some very interesting compositions and unusual placements. And because it's a zoom, you can also play with things that you might not have played with otherwise. And, one of the points of photography, in my view, is to be able to take people where your eyes can't go. And I think that's one thing that this lens can allow you to do. The fine detail at close range really is excellent. Fine textures, the veins in a leaf, the surface of a petal, or in this case, a single cherry against a black background, are rendered with a precision that I really would only expect from a dedicated macro lens. And that's the real story of the lens. I think it's not that it's good for a vintage zoom or decent for its age or, really good for the price. It's that a single compact 700 gram lens from 1988 could cover so much ground. Environmental scenes, portraits, and macro quality close-ups. All beautifully, not just competently. And with the clarity of color and three-dimensionality that I struggle to find in more modern lenses that cost way more. That versatility deserves to be recognized. So the Canon EF 50-200 f3.5 to 4.5L, is it worth hunting down? I'm not going to pretend that the handling isn't dated, and I mean truthfully, it was dated even when it came out. The reality is that it's a great lens optically that is very unpleasant to use in practice. Thank you so much for watching the Photo Files and for spending some time with me today. Please hire me for your photographic needs. My email address and website are on the screen. And check out the related videos on screen right now for more Photo Files adventures. And thank you for watching.